presenter is Professor Jean-Yves Lefrant, who is from CSU Nimes, which is a university hospital in southern France. Jean-Yves is another long-term friend and collaborator, and it's very nice to see him today. I mean, he's often happier than you see on the screen right now. We're going to learn about what the French approach was to the intensive care bed requirements in France. This was a very important national approach to dealing with the pandemic, and to hear what the strategy that was used in France, I think, is something which is very interesting and relevant to all countries. So it's very nice to have you here, Jean-Yves. I hope that you've enjoyed your time in the snow of recent times, and obviously that's provided you with plenty of opportunity to put this lovely presentation together. I would just finish by adding that CSU Nimes is a very strong collaborator for educational events with the University of Queensland, and this particular COVID-19 Therapeutics Whirlwind is something which we're also very grateful to partner with them on. So thank you, Jean-Yves. We look forward to your presentation.
Thank you, Jason, and hi, everybody. It's very happy to present this presentation today about the national healthcare response to ICU bed shortage during the pandemic. And first of all, if yes, here. So first, Nimes is in the south of France, near the Mediterranean Sea, and then it's famous for its arena and the bullfighting. And of course, for the Roman bridge, Pont du Gard, and for the CHU Nimes, it's a new hospital from for 20 years old. And for my competing interest, no financial, but an academic one, because I am the editor-in-chief of ACCPM. So I try to cite a lot of reference from ACCPM. So the history of COVID-19 in the world and in France, you know, it's November. It's the first cases, November 2019. It's in China, and in France it's January 2020. And it's very in March we have the speech of president, because the COVID-19 was very present in the territory. So, and we decided to lock down in March 17th. But what's about the history to overwhelmed ICUs? It's begin in Mulhouse in the east of France with a religious seminar with 2,000 persons during 1 week, which returned to their home, and it was evidently a good cluster, a beautiful cluster. And the first the alert was made by our colleague in Strasbourg in the east of France, just close to Mulhouse, and in the beginning of March, they saw a lot of COVID-19 patients. Their baseline ICU bed was 97. And you see that at the middle of March, they were overwhelmed by the COVID-19 patient. And you see in this slide that in the end of March, they have to double the capacity of ICU beds. And they have a lot of COVID-19 patients, with no patient without COVID-19. So the pre-pandemic ICU capacity in France was in 2018 was 5,531 ICU beds. It was a report by the French ministry. And of course, you see that during the first wave, we have more than 7,000 patients, COVID-19 patients in ICU. So the question is how France could increase ICU capacity in March. So during the 15 days at the end of March. So we have no no sucrate is not an extraordinary solution. We have just add the solutions that were published in a New England Journal of Medicine in Italy, or in Spain, or in the USA, or in Canada. So that we'll see in this presentation. So the different challenges was to increase ICU bed capacity, to increase ICU caregivers, and preventing any shortage and improving collaboration in hospital and out of hospital. First of all, it's a French specificity. The French law has differentiate 3 types of units for managing the most seriously ill patients. Intensive care unit, it's patient with or at risk of at least 2 organ failures. Continuous care units, CCU, are patient only with 1 organ failure, specific to a particular medical specialties such as cardiology or neurology and nephrology. And we have also acute care units, ICU, patient at risk of developing an organ failure in the post-operative or medical setting. This organization is a little difference from other countries such as the USA, or I think such as Australia, because we have also some law about the technical equipment and the personnel in each unit. And you can see that in ICU, we have 2 nurses for 5 patients and 1 auxiliary for 4 patients. And in CCU, we have one nurse for 4 to 6 patients. And in ICU, not legally defined. So it's always a fight with the administrative to get more caregiver in ICU. The second one was increasing ICU. The second challenge was increasing ICU physician staffing. For working in ICU in France, we can follow the study of anesthesiology and critical care with a duration of 4 years. And after we can choose between ICU and anesthesiology, but we can change during your career between anesthesiology and ICU because we have you are allowed to perform ICU or anesthesiology. The second way is to be intensivist. So since in last year, you can have a specialty validation such as cardio, renal, or pulmonary specialty, and you did 2 semesters in ICU with a specific diploma named DESC, and you can be ICU physician. Of course, what we can do during the first wave when all scheduled activity was cancelled in the hospitals. Of course, all anesthesiologists could work in ICU as there is no work in operating room. So what's happened in France really? So we perform a study, the French ICU studies. So for not being overwhelmed by the COVID-19 in the first wave, so we contact by phone or by email all the ICU in France. So we can contact more than 94% of ICUs, representing more than 5,000 beds. It's more than 19%. And what's happened? So we report that more than 4,400 ICU beds were created during this wave, during this first wave, in 15 days. So here is the main picture of the presentation. So you can see in the white line, it's the incidence of a COVID-19 patient in ICU. So we have in April 8th, more than 7,000 patients in ICU. On the left of the screen, you can see the initial capacity of bed in ICU, in ACU, and in a post-anesthesia care unit. And you can see that at the end of March, we can transform some ACU beds in ICU and some PACU bed in ICU or in ACU beds for reaching more than 10,000 ICU beds. Of course, what's about the staffing? But yes, but the most important source of caregiver for physician and resident was, of course, anesthesiologist, because anesthesiologist has no job in an operating room for anesthesia. And of course, we have some other physician who come from other institution who is not involved in the care of COVID-19 patients. It was the same with the nurse, even if in France we have no specialty in nursing, because nurse could work in every unit, not only in ICU but also in other in the wards. And of course, some nurses who have worked before in ICU could come back temporarily in the unit for helping the nurse staffing. About shortage, what's happened? Of course, at the beginning we have some problem with mask and with sedative agents. One concern, and it's always now, because we have some fright about this number. It's about ventilator, because we have at the beginning of the outbreak nearly 6,000 ventilator, and we can increase to 9,000 ventilator. But you see that the increase in ventilator was less than the increase in a ICU bed. And this the source of this ventilator come from the regional health agency, from the different firms, and from, of course, from the PSCU and operating room, and from other unit. But you see that the ventilator park in France, it's always a frailty in the care. So in conclusion one, in exceptional condition, but we know that about terrorist attack, and it was the same for the outbreaks. In exceptional condition, when all scheduled intervention are concerned, the ICU bed availability could double in less than 50 days. Some beds could be quickly upgraded, some ACU, PCU, operating room, CCU, and also some beds such as single surgery, because in this room you have classically 2 patients, but with air, oxygen, and wall suctioning. So we can transform this room in an ICU room with only 1 patient. Some physician could be quickly available, anesthesiologist, surgeon. Surgeon could help the physician for prone position and for giving some information to the family. Physician in institution with cancel activity. Of course, this conclusion, it's a national point of view, and we have some limitation. For instance, in April 8th, we have a lot of patients with COVID-19 in the northeast of France, but in the southwest, where there is, for instance, Nimes, we have no many patients with COVID-19, and some hospital here, for instance, in the west, in the southwest, didn't see any patient with COVID-19. It was nearly like in Brisbane, when I asked Jason or Jeffrey, what's about COVID in Brisbane? And they answered me, what is COVID-19? But it was nearly the same in the southwest of France. And you can see in this study, we ask every ICU, did you admit some patient from other ICU with COVID-19, or do you need to transfer some COVID-19 patient to other units? So we can calculate a balance of COVID-19 patient. And you can see in reds the region with a negative balance, meaning that there are more they have to transfer patients from their unit to other unit. And in green, it's a region where the ICU could admit patients from other region in ICU. And you can see that some region, so it corresponds to the picture on the left. Some regions were overwhelmed, whereas others were empty. And it's really a great challenge, because we can wonder whether we can react locally and not nationally. What's about the psychological consequences? We performed a study in University of Nimes in April 2020, and you can see that it's the first line. You can see that it's the threat score of the state and threat anxiety inventory score, meaning that we have nearly 40% of persons with anxiety, a baseline anxiety, and during the outbreak, this proportion will reach more than 70%. And interestingly, what was the risk factor of anxiety? It was to be a woman, to have a job different from doctor and pharmacist, meaning that the job without decision making could be at risk of anxiety. Working it was a mistake, sorry. Working in a non-high viral density unit was also a risk factor of anxiety, and to be in contact with SARS-CoV-2 patients. So this conclusion, this finding is not very, it's known by the psychologist, because when you know the physiopathology of the disease, the people are less anxious than the other one. What's about the impact on surgical volume and the activity of an hospital? So it's a study that we are performing now about the consequence of COVID in 2020, and in comparison with the 3 last year. And you can see that in the surgical volume, we decreased surgical intervention for 75%, a decrease in hospitalist day for 33%, meaning that we lost about 15 million euros at this time. So what's about today? And you can see on the left the number of patients with COVID-19 until February 18th, and the number of patients in ICU. You can see that, and in the right, you can see the ICU bed occupancy over than 70% bed occupancy with COVID-19 patients. Sorry, in red it's over than 70%, and so the remaining region are under 70%. And you can see that, like for the first wave, we have a difference between the northeast and the southwest. And the question is, should we have a national solution or should we have a local solution? It will be my conclusion about this picture. First, yes, we can increase ICU bed availability. It's not very difficult when all activity is cancelled in a hospital. But at which cost? First of all, economical consequences for the hospital and for the nation, for the country. Psychological and sociological consequences, the feeling of unusefulness for the young people, for the people without job. Of course, we have some question about the relationship between scientific and politics. Who is the leader? The scientific are not the leaders. The leader are the politics, but they have to be informed by the scientific. Fourth, local or national strategy. I think that the local strategy would be better than a national strategy, as you can see on the picture. Some region have no COVID-19, not many COVID-19 patients. And of course, political consequences and political solution. I think that the main issue could be this question, and perhaps we can perform a new webinar about this all these consequences for general consequences. So thank you for your attention, and I began my confinement in Australia last year. I was in Brisbane, and you know I was in Brisbane, and very soon in Sydney. So it's Manly Beach with a confinement. But you know, in Australia, you have always some friend, and the friend very famous, specialist in pharmacokinetics. He's the king in the peak and the truth. And this year I was in Alpes-Montaigne. It was my French confinement. Of course, it was colder than Manly Beach, but it was not so. It was very beautiful too, and I found another teacher, a teacher in skiing, but this skiing is close to Jason because he can guide me to the peak and help me to descend to the valley quickly. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Jean-Yves. You've always had a way with creating pictures and linking interesting topics one to another. We have a couple of questions here for you. First question is from one of the attendees asking whether all of your ICU patients in the areas of increased capacity, were they in negative pressure rooms?
Yes, yes. So the negative pressure room, it was an issue, but we can do I have not this information in all hospital, of course.
Yes.
But I think that this question, it's let me to answer a little differently, because that means that negative pressure will be required in the more acute patients, you know. And I think that in the organization, of course, this more severely ill patient could be admitted in the real ICU, the baseline ICU room, of course. And I think that when they are better, they could be transferred to another room. And I think that the negative pressure is not really an issue. For instance, in Nimes, we could have negative pressure in all the room, but we have a new hospital, a new unit, so it was not so difficult. But in other hospital with older one, we could find this issue. And of course, I think that we have to organize how manage the patient during its way in the hospital. And I think it could be an interesting question and an interesting solution to put the patient in the good room according to the severity of his disease. Is it a correct answer, Jason?
I'm not the one to comment on whether it's correct. I think that's your experience, and that is therefore reality and correct. So thank you, Jean-Yves. There's one other question here from Dan Tar, and Dan would like to know your thoughts on the retrospective analysis of a serum sample in France, which was shown to have SARS-CoV-2 present in it. Do you have any comment you'd like to make on that? In November 2019, well, there was a paper published which had some retrospective analyses of some serum that I think it was serum that had been collected back as early as November 2019. And Dan is interested to know whether you have a comment about the fact that from then that there was a SARS-CoV-2 virus isolated.
Sorry, Jason, I didn't understand the question. Could you repeat differently? I'm sorry.
I don't think we probably need to go into detail. It's just that pointing out that there was a publication which noted that, that SARS-CoV-2 had been detected in France before January.
Oh, yes.
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 Anyway, so
I have no comment because I'm not the best person for answering this question. Sorry.
No problem. No, all fine. Thank you, Jean-Yves, and thank you to all the speakers. I was delighted that all of the speakers that we hoped would present at this COVID-19 Therapeutics Whirlwind, as soon as I found out that they were able to contribute, like, that was very exciting for me, because I think that they're all wonderful leaders in their areas, and I certainly learned a lot from each of them, and I'm very grateful for them being able to keep to time and for us to get through so much content in such a short period of time. So thank you very much to all the speakers. We're all very grateful. I'd also like to thank the sponsors and supporters again for enabling this seminar to occur. A big thanks to Pfizer and Gilead, as well as CSU Nimes, for your ongoing partnership with our education program. And with this, I'd like to draw everyone's attention to the rest of our education program, which will be ongoing in 2021, which is very varied in our Centre of Research Excellence. And we look forward to sharing some more information about that with you soon. Specifically on the topic of this meeting, you'll note that this was a recorded series of lectures, and each of those will be uploaded to our YouTube channel in due course. So please keep an eye on the CRE Reduce website, where you can access those or refer friends and colleagues to presentations that you thought were particularly useful and interesting and relevant to their understanding of what the current state of knowledge is for COVID-19. So I will conclude there. Thank Luminita Vlad, as always, for her wonderful support to make these webinars go as seamlessly as they do. And I hope that it's not too long before we can start to have these meetings in person again. But at the very least, it does allow us to quite easily connect some really leading minds on important topics to people that are interested in those topics, such that they can hear in a very short space of time and in a convenient location some of those very interesting thoughts that people have on these challenging topics. So with that, I will conclude the meeting. Thank you to all the speakers once again, and wish everyone a very good night, good evening, good afternoon, good morning, or if you happen to be Andre Khalil, maybe just a little catch-up sleep before you start your day in America. All right, thanks to everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks, bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you, bye-bye.